Okay, we will then turn to our consent grouping. Can I please have a motion to approve, oh, well, first, is there anything that anybody wants to pull out for separate consideration from the consent grouping? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve consent grouping items 5A1 through 5C1?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and with that, we will head over for a curriculum report with Mrs. Ryan.
Yeah. All right, we had a good meeting on Wednesday. We heard quite a bit from finance and operations, but I'm gonna leave that to Dr. Mashad in a second. And then we did also get to hear a more elaborate presentation from some of our high school English teachers. Last board meeting, we talked about the addition of a few English courses in the course catalog for our high school students. And so on Wednesday, we had 4 high school English teachers come and present to us about those courses in more depth and what the goal of those courses are. So we had Amber Ashley from Eastern High School and Doreen Barnes from Eastern, Elise Greenwood from Eastern, and Sarah Balkamp from Northern come and talk about the addition of our pre-AP English 1 class, which would be for 9th graders, and our pre-AP English 2 course, which would be for our 10th graders who do not choose to take AP seminar in 10th grade. I think I have that correct. And so one of the things that our teachers have identified over the last few years is that a lot of our kids, once they get to high school, might not believe that they have what they need to take AP courses. And they don't have that student self-efficacy to know that they could handle something like this. And then additionally, some of our students who get into AP courses may be lacking some of the necessary skills to do well in those courses, especially when it comes to the high level of writing that is required in those AP courses. So the pre-AP courses are going to aim to do a lot more of intensive paragraph writing instruction, general tools that students will need to take AP courses, and then also talking about, they had 4 main units that they're gonna focus on in those pre-AP courses. So things like plays and poetry, a nonfiction unit, a narrative unit, working at identifying and using compelling evidence, using powerful openings in their writing, incorporating more details. So they really wanted to be able to instill that level of rigor that's necessary for our AP courses in these pre-AP classes. And then they're also gonna have this pre-AP English honors course with some additional units and a higher level of text complexity for the texts that are being read, diving a little bit deeper into the concepts that are in the pre-AP class, and then some extensive grammar also related to elevating writing style. And then we also talked about AP Seminar, which is a course that our 10th graders for the first time this year have been taking, and so we're just moving forward with that. This course really operates with the acronym QUEST. So questioning and analysis, understanding, evaluating multiple perspectives, synthesizing ideas, and team kind of collaborative projects. So this class requires students to conduct high levels of research and defense of different positions. And these can be research projects on a wide variety of things that students kind of work to identify that they're interested in, and then oftentimes they get to work in teams to do this research and these presentations. Doreen Barnes was the teacher that talked about AP Seminar and just really hit on how transformative this course has been for not only the students but for the teachers, and just watching her students dive into these topics, really believe in themselves that they can do this hard research and do the presentations. It is an AP course, so they still have to do something with the College Board in order to earn the AP credit. So these students have to do a 1,200 word paper during the course of this class, and then they have to do 2 essays and 2 presentations before the College Board, before they then also take the AP exam to earn that AP credit. So she was really excited about this class and what it's providing for the students in terms of that college level academic research, and how it's really helped a lot of students who didn't feel like they could hack an AP class believe that they absolutely can do an AP class with the right training. So that was the bulk of our meeting. Those descriptions of those 2 courses and what it's doing for our students in all of our schools.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I have one. And so this new design is going to be similar across all 3 high schools, right? And a lot of this is just the natural path that students will take, or are they going to have to sift through all these options as freshmen and figure out their path, early on, and have all this explained to them too? Because I'm trying to keep up with exactly where everybody's
Yeah,
going to.
so the AP seminar, for example, as a sophomore, you don't have to take that course.
Right.
You can if you want to, but that is an optional course as 10th grade. So it's essentially replacing Honors English 10. And so if you don't want to take AP seminar, then you can take the pre-AP English 2. Does that make sense?
Yes, got it.
Okay. 9th graders can take the pre-AP English 1 if they'd like to, or just regular English 9.
Okay. So starting in 8th grade, they'll start to see this through counselors and everybody
Yes,
else kind of.
yeah,
is
they always get like a showcase of classes
Right.
that they're able to take, and so these would be detailed for them.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay, we'll move on then and to Dr. Majad for finance report.
Okay, thanks. We had a great meeting on Tuesday. We have no financial statements for us, you notice in the packet, just because of the timing early in the month of the meeting, so we'll have a couple months of data to look at next month. We start off with a construction update, as we do, a bond construction update, and there's not a lot of updates to be had, which is good news. Everything is pretty much on schedule and on pace, the work happening across the district. Central High, like we approved last month, just to know, we'll start this summer, so that's exciting. All those pieces are falling into place. And our bond facilities team will get together again in the next month or so to go see some of this work, to go to Ada Vista, Pine Ridge, as those schools are completing their work. So we look forward to that. And then we got right into our action items, and there are quite a few that I want to detail. The first is a recommendation to relinquish federal Title III immigrant funds, which we spent some time talking about and clarifying what this is. This doesn't make sense to me that we're doing this. We receive this package of federal grants for all types of purposes in all different areas of education, different intended uses, different scopes, that all have their strings attached for what they can be used for. And so these Title III immigrant funds are one of those, a very small sliver of that overall chunk that we receive. This is a recommendation to relinquish those funds because we have not found value add ways to use it. The total amount is $9,000 annually, which is not nothing, but it's not a lot of money to put on a big program. The scope that comes with these funds is very narrow. The applicable student population is very small, and attempts have been made to try and use this, and it hasn't led to meaningful use of those resources. So as it sits now, we have a current balance of $19,500 in this sliver because of prior years' funds that we weren't able to use either. And so this is the process by which we can just officially relinquish these grant dollars back to be repurposed elsewhere. We had a lot of discussion to understand what we do have in the district and what other grants do come in to support those students who need some of that, and there are many. Just a few of them include the Language Assistance Program that comes out of the general fund, the Title II English Language Development, some Title I funds go towards this purpose, Section 41, 31A, grants. So there's just a lot of other pieces for us to pick from to support these students. And this particular one with all of the strings attached is not one that we find very useful. So that's what that item is to relinquish that. Next is the purchase and install of kind of the phase 2 pilot of our BenQ boards, our interactive flat panels. The initial pilot has been a success. There's been a few boards in every building that have been used, and this is kind of the second stage of this. So this will put 2 new mobile carts like this that can be moved around class to classroom, 2 of those in every elementary and middle school, 4 of them in every high school, and then every media center will receive one around the district as well. And each building will have a wall-mounted kind of fixed version of the board as well. So this is kind of the next phase to keep expanding our district utility of them. We went through the REMC purchasing co-op. This will come from 2023 capital projects for an amount not to exceed $379,654. Next, we have a couple of roofing projects that have been planned at multiple buildings across the district. Eastern Middle High School, Pine Ridge, and the food service building are all due for roofs. As we kind of alluded to last year, the bidders are back. We've got a lot of bids, which is great. It gets us good pricing on all of these things. And we received no fewer than 7 bids for each of these. So I'll just detail them. Eastern Middle High School is being awarded to the low bidder Advanced Construction Group for $574,924. The Pine Ridge roof was the low bidder Division 7 building contractors, not to exceed $531,940. And the food service building is recommended to the low bidder as well, Modern Roofing, for $125,190. All of those falling under the 2023 capital projects. So that will take place over the summer. Next is another summer project, playground equipment. As part of the 2023 bond language was to add accessible playground equipment across the district. So Game Time is the supplier of this equipment, met with principals, went and saw every playground, met with the administration to determine the needs and desires of all of our elementary schools. And so through the My Deal Purchasing Co-op, we'll be looking to furnish all of the elementary schools with the exception of Good Willie, if you put them in their group, because they have particular needs over there, obviously on their campus, or different needs. But otherwise, this will outfit all the other elementary schools. Cost not to exceed $5,223,076, and this will be a summer purchase and install, so that'll be in soon. Next is ongoing classroom furniture upgrades. This round of furniture will impact nearly 100 rooms and spaces across 10 different buildings. 4 different purchasing co-ops, 5 different vendors, as we saw in the packet. Total cost not to exceed $2,303,911 out of 2023, and the to be received 2025 capital projects funds for that. Next is bus purchase. We are looking to replace 4 buses is the request. There were 3 bidders, and the recommendation is to go with the International bus brand from Midwest Transit Equipment. They were not the low bid. It was about a $10,000 difference out of $650,000 or so. So small, but they are the ones that carry this International brand, which is what most of our fleet is and what our transportation department is very comfortable with and very good at maintaining and all of the rest. So this allows us to standardize for pretty marginal extra cost compared to the low bid. So the amount not to exceed $646,464 will come out of the 2025 capital projects. The next is an annual item that we have to authorize and sign a waiver and consent form for 4 taxing authorities in our district to strike delinquent personal property taxes. This, as we'll recall, after 5 years of trying to collect, they moved to strike these from the tax rolls, and we, as a receiver of or recipient of some of those, have to authorize that they do that. The total amount is about $28,000, which does not affect our bottom line. The state makes up that difference for us, anything that we would have lost there. So that was in our packet, that language as well. And then the final piece that we kind of foreshadowed last month that we'll talk about every month for a little while is the operating millage. In our packets, we have the official language to make May 6th a special election and put this proposal on the ballot for us to consider. Again, we will talk about it a lot. There'll be a lot from the district, but just a couple of reminders about it that I would make. This is to renew the 18.1297 mills that we currently have in place that's going to expire, as well as add an additional 0.5 mills will recall we can only levy a maximum of 18 at a time, but this over 18 allows us to protect against rollbacks that have happened to us in the recent past, which is why we had to go to ask for an increase a couple of years ago to make up that difference. So that just hedges against that. This is not a tax increase. It's still the same 18 mills that we've been levying to these non-homestead properties, so businesses, second homes, not primary residences, every year since 1994. So this is just the call to renew that. And this, as another reminder, unlike the bond proposals, unlike recreation millages that have their particular, very specific purposes, this is the operating millage. This makes up about 1/5 of our total budget that goes towards paying our teachers and benefits and curriculum and all these materials. So this is part of the per pupil allowance that the state expects us to receive part of that locally. And if we don't receive that locally, we just lose that money right out. That's not made up by the state in any way. And that equates to about $24 million. So this is an important thing that we've always had great support for. It's part of our operating budget. And all that to just say, mark your calendars, spread the word, because it is kind of an off election time. May 6th will be the date that we will vote on that. And that sums up our meeting.
Do you want to talk about if we're having it May 6th, the next time we have to renew it's on the agenda?
Sure, yeah, thanks. And we should mention that too every time because this will come up. As it is an off-year ballot proposal, it's not tied to a presidential election, a gubernatorial election. We will have to fund this ballot initiative. We had to do this a couple of years ago when we had kind of an off-cycle time as well. The exact cost for that is not yet known because there may be other initiatives from other municipalities that'll be on there as well, and that cost will be split. When we did this a couple of years ago, that cost to the district came out to be in the 30,000, 40,000-ish, 35 I think, range that we paid. But again, this is to allow us to continue receiving $24 million annually. So if we think of it as a cost of doing business. However, to that point, we've always had 10-year renewals because it didn't used to be a thing that you had to pay for off-cycle ballot proposals. That's more of a recent change, I think, or I know. So we are now putting this out there as a 6-year renewal so that the next time we go for this, it does line up with an on-cycle election year, and so there will be no cost to that. And obviously, we'll have that in our minds moving forward, but I think even 10 years ago, when it was voted on for the next 10 years, that was not a rule where we had to pay for that. So we'll incur those costs one more time to do this, but it's a necessary thing to make sure we continue to receive that pretty large chunk of our budget. So thank you, if that adds, or feel free to add. So any questions on that or any of the other stuff from finance?
I'm just curious if you know, the $5 million for the playground equipment, is that going to replace all of the equipment on all the playgrounds, or is it just additional or replacing where we need it?
Yes, replacing where we need and adding where we need. So it's not ripping out and putting in all new, is my understanding. It's additional equipment that is specifically accessible and more accessible for all of our students. So yes, just adding and replacing where needed.
And is it more than just equipment? Is it looking at just the playgrounds overall and safety, or is it just equipment that the project is for the summer, do we know?
I think that's the cost of just the
Okay.
new equipment materials, or I don't know, or I'm
Well,
not
I was
sure
just
what else
curious
you're.
if the playgrounds are being looked at for safety in general, or it's just an equipment replacement?
I think this is the cost just of the new product
Gotcha.
coming in. I don't think it is cost for looking at the rest of the playground as a whole, but I might be wrong. If
Can I ask you?
Mrs. Davis can,
I'm just curious.
That's okay. When they went out to each of the schools, they did review all of the equipment and right down to the mulch and how deep that is, and do we need to dig some of that out and replace it? Because we just keep adding on and those types of things. So they really looked at the existing equipment. So it's really, it just depends on the location. There are pieces that we're gonna remove, right, because they're not necessarily appropriate anymore, not in good enough condition, so those will be replaced. There'll be some additional pieces of equipment for that accessibility, and then kind of that safety, if somebody falls, how's it gonna protect them?
Gotcha. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Dr. Michon? Okay, terrific. All right, then can we move on to have a roll call vote on our consent grouping?
Yes. Dr. Michon?
Yes.
Ms. Komodo,
Yes.
Mr. Colley,
Yes.
Mrs. Tryon,
Yes.
Dr. Fossen,
Yes.
Mrs. Nymeyer, yes.